Hey folks, it's Carrie from Pretty Neat. Thanks for joining me. If you're new here to my channel, welcome. I share new videos here every week about organizing and decluttering your home and adopting a minimalist mindset. So I hope you'll hit the subscribe button and stick around. Today, I want to talk to you about a book that I've read recently, and I have been recommending it to absolutely everyone that I know, and they're probably sick of hearing about it. The book is called 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. I picked it up because I heard the author on a podcast, actually on the Sam Harris podcast. I'll link to that podcast episode down below. I was initially interested because I am kind of a time management nerd. I love reading about productivity tips and how better to manage my time. It's also because I'm going to admit this publicly, I have a terrible relationship with time. I am constantly overestimating what I can accomplish within a specific period of time, whether it's getting ready in the morning, driving to an appointment, completing a work task. I am always giving myself the benefit of the doubt that I can get it done in a much quicker time than it actually takes. And this is just something I constantly struggle with. I'm aware of the issue, but I can never seem to give myself more time. I'm always kind of waiting till the last minute to start when I know something's going to take me a while, and then inevitably stressing myself out. So I picked up this book. The author's name is Oliver Burkeman, and his approach to time management is completely different from any other approach I have ever heard. So most time management or productivity books are filled with things like life hacks and techniques for creating a to-do list that will finally get you motivated, and how can you get more done in less time. That's what most productivity advice is all about. His book is really focused much more on the underlying issues of why we are always trying to cram more in, why we have this terrible relationship with time, why we really struggle with feeling productive. What he discusses in his book over and over again is that our problems are all related to the fact that we have limited time. We have what he calls finitude, meaning we have a finite amount of time here on earth. Our lives are impossibly short, and our constant struggle is that we don't accept that at a deep level. We want to believe that we have infinite time to do infinite things with our lives. And the truth is, that's just not the case. But he attributes most of our problems with productivity and just in dealing with time in general to this denial that we're all in about our mortality. So I know that this sounds depressing, and you might think like, oh, a book that's gonna make me face my own mortality is not one that I want to read. Let me assure you that he does this in a really gentle way, and he's also very funny. It's kind of interesting that a book about time management and about mortality could actually be entertaining, but I assure you it is. I just found his style of writing very easy to digest, and it kept me engaged throughout the whole book. So what Burkeman says is that by facing our mortality, by facing this finite amount of time that we all have, it's not depressing, it's actually freeing. That there is freedom to be had in radical acceptance of our own mortality, of the small amount of time that we have, and that it's only once we accept that fact at a deep level can we really move forward with purpose, and can we really make any kind of contribution. So living in denial about our mortality, according to Burkeman, holds us back in a lot of different ways. And he goes through the book and outlines them. Because we don't accept the fact that we have limited time, we try to do everything. We try to accomplish so many tasks that are unrealistic for us to complete. And what ends up happening is we just live so much of our lives frustrated about how little progress we're making. And at the end of our life, we end up with regrets because we didn't really do a lot of the things that were important to us. One example that he gives is about projects that we take on in our lives. And he says that instead of really prioritizing those projects and working on the most important one until it's complete and then moving on, instead, we take on a bunch of different projects all at one time, and then we just make tiny little incremental progress on each one. What ends up happening then is we don't ever really finish anything, and yet we are deluding ourselves into thinking we can get all of these projects done because we are working on all of them simultaneously. That point really resonated with me because I do tend to take on more projects than I can realistically finish, especially at this time of year. In January, I often will make a list of projects that I want to do in the upcoming year. And then at the end of the year, I look at it and I think, oh, I hardly did any of that stuff because either I procrastinated and didn't start, or maybe I made a little bit of progress here and there, but I didn't actually check off the big things. Burkeman says that part of why we avoid working on our most important projects is because when they live in our heads, they are perfect. I have a big goal this year of writing a book, and in my head, the book is perfect. But as soon as I sit down and start writing, the reality of my own shortcomings, my own imperfections is playing on the page, and then that feels uncomfortable. And so in a lot of ways, it's easier for our big goals to just live in our heads, where we don't have to face the reality of them and how they never really measure up to our expectations. Another point that I think a lot of us can relate to in the book is about making commitments to big things, like a career path or a relationship. He says that we really resist making these big commitments because whenever we choose a path, it means that we now can't choose the other paths. Committing to a specific career or a specific person or a specific cause, it means that we have to exclude all the other ones. And that can be difficult, but what research actually shows is that when people do make those big commitments, they have more happiness, more life satisfaction. So he advises us to pick a lane and commit to it, and that we will reap the benefits from that, even though it will feel uncomfortable at the time because it means we now can't do all those other things that we thought we might. Burkeman discusses this thing called the efficiency trap. When we become more productive, all that happens is we have more things to do. So he gives the example of email, and there's lots of advice out there about inbox zero and how to more efficiently get through your emails. And he says that there was a time in his life when he really tried those tactics and he did get better at emails, and he started powering through his inbox more efficiently. What happened was that he just got more emails. If you more quickly respond to people, you will just get more responses in return. You will just be generating more emails and more work for yourself. The key to this is just accepting the fact that our to-do list is never going to be complete, that our email inbox is never going to really be empty, and just proceed with that knowledge. Accepting the author's advice was really hard for me because I am a person who is a perfectionist, and I do believe there is some solution to all of this. I do believe if I can just do things the right way, if I can just figure out the right techniques or get my schedule set up correctly, that I'm suddenly going to feel at peace with everything. I had to admit, after reading this book, that that is a faulty premise to build my life on, that there is never this point that's going to come that I feel everything's done or that I have all the systems in place and I finally got my life together. I think that the real take-home message in this book is that we're never going to feel that way. We're never going to feel like we're on top of it all, like we have accomplished everything that we want to accomplish, or that we're making all the right moves. And that if we can just let go of that expectation, we can really move on with purpose. We can stop chasing that, and we can really take a hard look at the fact that we have limited time. We can only accomplish a few things in this life, and we can really put our efforts into those things that are most important to us. He talks a little bit about this expectation that we have to do something amazing with our lives, to become this person who will be remembered throughout history as someone who changed the world for the better. Realistically, the number of people on that list is so tiny in comparison to the number of people who have lived, that we really should give up that goal and accept the fact that we are just going to be this blip in history. This feels very depressing on one hand to accept, but there is such freedom in that I don't have to make these amazing strides for humanity in my life, that I can really just make some small, tiny contribution in this life. And that's really all that I need to worry about. I don't have to pressure myself into trying to achieve these really unrealistic goals. The last piece of advice that I took from this book that really resonated and that I want to continue to keep in mind moving forward is this. As we reach our goals in life, they just get replaced with new goals. That this idea that I will be happy when ... is really self-defeating. This idea that, well, when I quit my job, or when I start my business, or when I get married, or when I get this house, whatever the case may be, that those things are going to be the key to our satisfaction, and that once we reach those, we will suddenly feel good about our lives, is really a fallacy. While reaching those goals may feel good, that is kind of fleeting, and that we're always living in this forward-thinking mode where, okay, well, I got that done, but now I really need to do this, and then I'll feel good about myself. I really need to get that promotion, or be making this much money, or whatever. And so his advice in this book is certainly not to abandon any goal setting or to stop making plans in life, but really to structure our lives so that we can find joy in the process of getting there. He talks about how that's really where the life happens, in the present moment. The happiness that we're seeking is not in some future event or something we check off a list. That happiness is what we're doing with our lives every day. That's where we can find it, because that's really the only place it can be. That's the only time that we're living, is in the current moment. And so structuring our lives so that the process of reaching those goals is something that we can feel good about, is something that we can find joy in, that's really the key to happiness and to feeling satisfied in our lives. It's not checking off the to-do list. It's not getting all the bucket list items done, because as he points out, none of it's ever going to be done. You are always going to be adding things to the list up until the day that your life ends. And so just really accepting that and trying to find joy in the process is really the take-home message that I got out of this book. So I could talk for an hour about how great this book is, but Really, I recommend reading it. It's available on Amazon. I'll link to it down below, or you can get it from your local library, of course. Yeah, really just read it. I think that you'll get a lot out of it. And especially if you are a person who's always looking for, productivity tips or life hacks, and you're kind of exhausted by that, this book will really help you out. So if you liked this video, please hit the like button. It helps my channel out a lot. And don't forget to subscribe. I share new videos here every week about organizing and decluttering your home and adopting a minimalist mindset. Talk to you soon.